Thank you. Good afternoon, friends. We all are aware of application security. Anybody who don't know application security here? Could you please raise the hand? Okay. Few years back, I was traveling to US. I was told that you are allowed to take 32 kilograms of weight. So I said, fine. I packed my baggage, went there. Few months later, when I traveled again, I was told that you can now carry only 23 kg of weight. So earlier, what I thought that I can't live without my veg food in US, I realized that yes, now I need to survive. The pair of jeans become single jeans. Okay. From the dozens of books, it becomes like two books. And I manage. Same thing happens when somebody gives you a budget of $32,000 and later tell, okay, now due to economic scenario, you need to utilize only $23,000. Or you might be given budget of let's say $10,000 and manage the process. So today I will share some of the techniques that you can deal with application security at reasonable cost. Here is the agenda for today's session. We will talk about some background. Many of you might be knowing it. It would be a repetition for you, refresher course. Then we will talk about application security budget and then how you can improve the investment. Security is still sold. Okay, whatever sessions we had today in this room or the other room, we are trying to sell security. We all know that sensitive data is being stored into online systems. And still, when you talk about security, people will say, would it really benefit me? Can you justify? Can you bridge the gap between a technology and a process? So in the welcome note, somebody gave a very good example. The people who know process, they may not be knowing technology. People who know technology, they may not be knowing process. And who makes the decision? I can't say that. Okay. So it's quite important to know these things. I was doing the penetration testing work earlier and then transforming to the business part now. So one of the most interesting tasks, where the chicken came first away, you do security for ensuring that you are complying with the regulatory and legal standards. So you want to meet the standard, that's why you need security. Any of the case, basically you need to ensure that your systems are secure. Otherwise, what he mentioned, the incidents will happen, and if it's an advanced processing threat, you are gone. Your critical system may get compromised, you would be under continuous scanner. So how many of you agree with this statement? Security and convenience can go hand in hand. So you agree or disagree?
Agree. We just saw in the last session, the security update caused the stoppage during the presentation. So for that, can we?
Okay, let me add this one. Because most of the time it's a cost or a budget that matters. You may build an excellently secure system, but you need to invest a lot for that. You may have a retina scanner into your companies, so nobody tailgates or nobody gets in. But how much it is going to cost? And that's where professionals like us come into picture. We are not actually the security consultants, we are security solution providers. So we advise companies to ensure that they run their business securely. And today, if you see the total exposure that has increased. So the way technology is growing, I don't think anybody is using mobile here for communication. It's more like a infotainment device. Social networking has grown, it has reached up to the homes. So what you need a good level of security. A few months back, there was an article. Researchers found that they were able to compromise a particular diabetic machine. So they actually reverse engineered the data over a wireless, and they were able to work on it. In one scenario, I read on the pacemaker, so you would be able to remotely control a pacemaker. So there are the healthcare issues. So we as an industry need to provide good solutions to the technology companies. And who will provide solution? Developers. Everyone says that developers are weakest link. But you need to sympathize with developers also. They are not taught security into college. They join the companies, they start working on a project. Who is going to provide the training? So we are a bit lucky that there are companies like Security Metrics available who provide the security training. But end of the day, if person is not made aware of the security threats and how to write secure code, they are not going to build secure application. And if you see the industry, the first one are the outsourcers. They are the one who outsource the work. And if you talk to them, they will say, give me 100% security. So it's a single line statement in the contract. If you take the developer companies, for them, yes, we are doing security, we are giving a secure product to you, but when outsourcers ask, can you give me a third party certificate that the application is secure? Now that's a cost. Somebody need to bear the cost. And who is going to bear that cost? If you look at the operators who are actually running the production systems, for them the tools are the only excuse. They will use tools, they will run the tools, they will submit the report. And if you see security service provider, they are God. Okay. You meet them, they will say, okay, you are insecure. Without even looking at your system, they would be able to tell this. So until you buy their services, you are under continuous threats. And I would say they are right. You may not be knowing who is keeping watch on your systems. There was a very good study done on whether application security really pays. And these are the results. Results are pretty good, showing that the reduction in the cost when we manage the incidents. They have also shown that the audit cost will also go down. But end of the day, what portion of cost is going down? So from a 1 million, is it coming to 90% of it? Or from X type of budget, is it converted to X by 2? So what is actually the cost of application security? I think we have professionals here. Let me ask question to you. What is the cost of application security? Anyone?
The risk minimization. That will be equal to risk minimization.
That's equal to risk minimization, okay? Anybody else? What is the cost of security?
Percentage of
Percentage, number, anything is okay.
it says generally 3% of the cost of the overall cost.
60?
3%.
3% of the cost.
Compliance with law.
Compliance with law. Okay. I mean, all the answers are right. The problem is it depends. So when we were studying in college, one of our professors told us that if you want to be a good businessman or architect, start mugging one word, 2 words. It depends. Okay. Anybody asks you a question, you need to respond by saying it depends. So now when I say risk mitigation, so what it is? It depends on your application. It depends on the complexity of the application. And that's right. I mean, without knowing the application complexity, you cannot actually identify what is the risk associated with that. So what you do with this? I mean, we can't stop the business and start calculating all these things. So let's understand. So how budget comes into picture? There is a rat race on application security, okay? Each company is coming up with their own secure development life cycle. Because end of the day, the customer trust depends how much secure you are keeping their data or your products are. You might have seen the news, one of the Microsoft store that got compromised. Now, if you detailed it out, it is actually, the work was actually given to some other companies to operate. But what got the news? News media picked up Microsoft, because that's a big name. Okay. So that goes to when you outsource the contracts, you need to ensure that whatever you are following as a process, they also need to follow. I had four. I hope everyone saw this movie. It was a movie made for hackers. Okay. The movie has shown what could go wrong when your critical infrastructure goes on fire. So what would happen? And this is exactly where the companies are putting too much money. The first question the decision maker asks, is the application security cost or it's an investment for me? What is the ROI on application security? Doesn't matter. If you are doing it first time, whether it's a cost or investment, end of the day, some amount would be deducted from your bank account. So until you have a mature process, this debate does not matter. And whose budget actually drives application security? That matters a lot. So let's say CIO is investing in application security. The objective is whatever internal applications are developed, they need to be made secure. If chief security officer is investing, then his objective would be different. If CTO is investing, his objective would be doing more research on upcoming technologies. So the person may be interested in knowing what goes when an Android device is connected onto network. So, and if it's a project's budget, it is purely related to how securely I can deliver application or build a product. So, budget from different groups actually drives different objectives. And if you see who is actually utilizing the budget, so if you see the budget here, it's an application security budget. But end of the day, who is going to utilize it? So you may have a compliance team, they will come up with a standard saying that you need to comply. If it's a US, you need to comply with SOX. If it's a company dealing with the payment card industry, they will have a PCI DSS. You may have infrastructure security team. They will say you put application onto servers, but servers need to be secure. So that should be part of application security budget. So there are a number of teams, and many of the companies may not even have the application security team. So what they will do? They will start hunting for service providers. So if you see the effective utilization of the AppSec budget, so it's been utilized by everyone except application security team. One of the major factor for the application security budget is tools. And every company will say we have silver bullet. If you don't buy our tool, then your systems or applications are getting compromised. If you want to see the interesting stuff, Larry Sutu, a very respected security guy, has done the analysis of the web application security scanners, and results were terrific. None of the tools were able to find all the vulnerability. And if you see, a lot of tools are available on Somatic. It's a static code analysis tools. There are dynamic code analysis tool, application analysis tool. End of the day, it's a problem. And problem arises when you try to get a tool which provides you more accuracy. So less false positive, less false negative. So the moment you are looking for it, the cost increases. So at that time you need to take actually a decision whether you need a tool or a human being. In many cases a security consultant proved to be cheaper than using the tool. Because end of the day, you will have a lot of false positive coming up and somebody need to sit and analyze. Okay, this is applicable, this is not applicable. Okay. So this was more like a refresher course. Now let's come to some of the improvement types. Show the true business case. Those who provide the budgetary approvals, you need to actually convince them, not on a security front. If I say 10 years back when I used to give presentation to decision makers, I will explain them what is SQL injection, what problem occurs when wrong code is written. They will say, okay, this is good. I will ask my technical manager to speak to you. Scenario is changed. Now you don't talk about SQL injection anymore. You talk about what is the risk to the organization. So if there is a SQL injection on a banking side, a transaction that is made on a site is actually the risk. The reputation of the bank go down. That's a risk. So you need to explain this in terms of the business risk rather than the technical risk. Using events list, this is the best one. And most of the time you don't need to invest into resources. There are enthusiasts available. If you see the lobby, there are a lot of fresh streams, the enthusiast security consultants available. So you just need to trigger them. They would be able to do the job. Sharing the success story, that works best. So once you can present a case how the application security is helping the project and customers, that's going to work the best. Retaining the skilled resources, that's the best. Okay. Finding a security guy from industry is tough. So it's, you all know those who are recruiting security teams. And mandate the security sign-off. Nothing will go out without security giving sign-off. Last step may look at a bit of policing, but you have to do it. There are no alternatives. When we talk on security requirements, one of the most important thing that we have observed is people have fantasies about application security. Okay? So when they put application security requirements, they will ask heaven from you. And there are two things. One is product security, and the other term is applications security. So if you are building a product like MS Office or you are building a Cisco router, the type of assurance that you need to do, because it's a widespread distributed environment, and versus you are developing a timesheet application, the requirement for the assurance would be different. You may be still writing the secure code, you might be doing a security testing, but when you go for a security assurance, the effort should be less when you develop the application which is focused on a particular requirement compared to a widespread product. So reduce the effort itself, because it is said that if you could identify all the requirements at the beginning of the project, you would be able to meet the deadlines properly in a given cost. This is another way by which you can reduce the cost. Use the proven libraries. There are a number of libraries available. So use it, of course, look at the license, because everything that looks free is actually not free. So if you take AGPL, it is as good as the commercial license. So use them, and the open source has an advantage that a lot of people are contributing as well as a lot of people are actually analyzing it. I don't need to explain this, you all know. Take up the freeware tools, the Backtrack or Quest, the best on Microsoft platform. Microsoft themselves have come up with a number of tools for each phase. Role-based training. Training is a big business in security. Okay. You meet someone, you try to give some gram, people will get threatened and say, my team is having this problem, so what you are going to do? So you put a business card saying that my company provides this training. Okay, please come in and explain this routine. Now the challenge with trainings is most of the time trainings are focused on the developed application. So you develop or you take a web code and start giving the training. Now web code is an application which was created for a self-learning purpose. The guy who is coming into your class is developing an application which is much more complex than web code. So giving an initial plan may not provide sufficient knowledge. And the person will assume that he or she has actually learned security, so they are now experts. So whatever they write is good. So that's actually a false sense of security. And there are a lot of training material available. So you utilize them and after that you schedule a training. So there is a basic level already achieved and after that you go for a training. Otherwise what will happen? I don't know the cost of training which are going over here. But what will happen, the person who is not having a background in security will become a security aware after attending the exploit training. So end of the day, person will come to know that there is something called a Metasploit. Person may not be able to actually utilize Metasploit during the pen testing. There are a lot of videos available. I think, one of our friend Vivek was here. So he has a site called securitytube.net. A lot of videos are available. So those are self-learning medium. And of course, paid services, you come to conferences or any professional services. One of the easiest way to reduce cost is to utilize the existing resources. So application architect, that's the group. If you teach them application security, it can go long. They can actually train their teams and take it forward. So you may have infrastructure security managers, then you can train them to ensure that the production systems are secure. Too many resources available for security. Okay, you type security on Google, you will find thousands of links. So what you are going to do? So you need to settle somewhere. And that's where the selective sources would have. So don't hunt for security everywhere. So today if something is not available on HelpNet, tomorrow it will come. Because everybody need to run their own business. So those things will definitely come. Look at some of the blogs because the strategic blogs are very useful. They will help you. Some of the names I have put in, there are a lot of good people who are here. One of the best things that works well is the incentives and reward programs. We have seen that developers do not have motivation for writing secure code. I forgot the name I was discussing with one of the researchers. Why actually people are not inclined to write secure code? One of the reasons is they don't get paid for writing secure code. Or they are not set from the company for writing insecure code. So any of two could be the right one. So you may encourage researchers, enthusiasts in coming up the vulnerability that they could find, or you can ask for 1 hour from a team who are not pertaining to your own group, but they can still help you on that. You don't need to secure each and everything. You need to grade it. I think in last session we have understood how grading works. So in a similar way, you also need to benchmark against the existing practices. You can't go all over big bang for everything. So you need to go step by step saying that, okay, I will first ensure that the CWE top 25 is being followed. So that's a first benchmark. And if your developers are aware of it, all the applications are reviewed against it, probably it will provide a better stage, and then you can move forward. So I'm taking a different perspective towards security. So it is not about using the tools, it's about building the quality systems. Security is just an extension to quality. So most of the problems we found in security are related to the authentication, authorization, and audit trace. Especially authorization is a big pain. Many a times developer when they code, they hard code things, they put things into database which are very difficult to change later. And then whenever a functional change occurs, they try to compromise with the code. So if role matrix is clearly defined during the requirement, it's the best one. Then you use the code analyzers. Number of analyzers available. I'm not talking about the security code analyzer, the normal quality code analyzer. If you use it end to end, it will still reduce the vulnerabilities. For example, empty cache block. So if you develop program, it is there. Then if you use normal quality code analyzer, they also find it. The benefit you get is the information will not be revealed, which could actually lead to an attack. So these are some of the techniques. Do the first testing for the all interfaces. That's the best thing that we have found, and especially when applications are developed using mobile platforms where some of the work is being done on the simulator, some of the work is being done on the devices. So those helps a lot because the application functionality works well over a simulator. The moment you put the application on the actual devices, applications crash. Simulators are built in a very intelligent model, so you may not find that simulators get crashed very frequently. We all do this. Source code analysis, security testing, VAPT, auditing, ACLs, periodic scan. So this is what is the bread and butter for security consultant. Let me just give you a different perspective. So what we try to do so far is, we are trying to remove the fault. From an existing system, we try to remove the fault. What is required is actually prevention of the fault. So how you can prevent a fault, that's important. Education, we have seen how free resources are available for the education. Security requirements, now this is one of the challenge. How you define a security requirement? Because not everyone is security aware. So if you ask anybody what should be the password complexity, person will say it should be secure enough. Now that's not the requirement, it's a wish. So requirement should be like X number of alphanumeric character, 2 or 3 special characters. This is how you define the requirement. So if you make the requirements proper, I think you are winning the game up. Threat model. Now this is very interesting thing. Microsoft has come up with a threat modeling tool. It's a very big way they have invested. But how we do the threat model? Do we actually sit and create the threat model with a tool? Because it has a dependency on Visio. You need to buy a license for Visio, which is an additional cost. So what you do? You need not to be a drawing expert to create the threat models. You can do it in a classroom also, whiteboard also. You may use even the attack trees that he explained in last session. All this is required to ensure that the design has a proper security checks. The next is the code generation. We have seen the automated testing tool. The code generations are probably the next generation tools, where you develop a code with a model and then say, I need code for Java, .NET, Android. You define the platform and the code would be generated. So if there is a vulnerability later found into code, you go back to the model. You modify the model, so next time any code that is generated from that model would be secure. Reuse. We have seen the open source model where one open source component is using another open source component. There is a dependency available. Now how that happens? So when you look at the build process for it, actual application source comes from one place, the dependency comes from other place. So what happens is a particular version or a component that is being used by application, it may or may not work with the next version. So that is the risk available. If you have seen a case for the Apache vulnerability that was released on 27th of Jan. So that is a problem. So Apache fixed the vulnerability, and on 31st of March, patch was released. Now, the patch was released in the latest version. Now how about the applications that are using the old version? Who is going to patch those applications? Some effort is required. So it's better that the source management is done properly. Audits and reconciliation, I think everyone who is working on infrastructure can know. So that's it from my side. These are some of the resources that you can use. The first three are the very interesting articles on why you should invest into application security. So far there is no benchmark available on the application security cost. So in case if you come across any benchmark, please share with me. I'm interested in knowing that. Something should be required actually in order to estimate the cost for the application security. Any questions? So take the questions now. Yeah.
Sometimes maybe the application developer or the QA or QT may not be the responsible for this programming loopholes or something like that. So there are some browsers which are really, really weak, in giving the web service in that particular fashion. So what do you think, in this particular chain, like the customer, developer, company, and the browser which they use, how do we match all these things?
It's very difficult to match. Okay. So we all know the practical scenarios. The best is to switch to another browser. Okay. There are challenges. If you see the browser development work, I think 4 or 5 browsers are actually developed and are providing the fast responses. So one of them being from a proprietary, and the others are the open platforms. So what we have observed is the browsers that are coming from a proprietary source, or you buy a service from the actual open source developers, then the response becomes good. Otherwise, as you was mentioned, the malware will get installed onto your machine. There are no shortcuts to that. Cross-platform. Okay. Thank you, friends.